Remember when Hollywood actress Alyssa Milano told leftists that they should go on a sex strike to protest abortion laws? I was totally in favor of that, by the way. Well, recently, Alyssa Milano decided to come out and tell pro-lifers that they should shut up if they support executing child murderers. We're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about Macy pulling politically incorrect plates from their stores. And we'll also go over the hit song Truth Hurts by Lizzo. Very, very anti-man, if you ask me. And then one woman's idea of art looks a lot like child abuse, not to mention gross. My name is Elisa Steele. This is Deconstructing the Culture. Alrighty, friends, 30-second personal update. This is officially my last podcast, not ever, just filmed in my current home. It has been crazy for me the last week, just pure packing, and I do have to apologize. This is why I bring this up. I forgot to tell you I forgot to show you the ugly swans that I told you about. And so in lieu of that, I'm going to show you now. There you go. If you're on YouTube, you can see them. Ugly matching wooden swans. Now, for those of you who are not familiar, where we have been living for the last couple of years, we rented it fully furnished, and I didn't fully know what I was getting into because my husband was here before I was. And I think that I prefer wet tissue paper thrown against the wall more than the decor that they have here, including those swans, and there is matching wallpaper to those swans in the kitchen. So I'm not a huge fan, so I'm kind of okay with leaving here. There you go. You've seen the swans. Your curiosity has been satisfied. I got a lot of you messaging me on Instagram saying, Lisa, you didn't show us the swans. And I was like, oh my goodness, I forgot. It got a little crazy over here. So there you go. Now let's go ahead and jump right into the podcast. I want to tell you about this crazy, exciting, not so exciting review I just got on iTunes. It's by Gillian Ederol. Ederol, I don't know how to say his name, or her, I don't know. They gave me a 1 star. Let me tell you why. It says, in all caps, Jesus freak alert, 3 exclamation points in like 4 Ks in the word freak. Now, you think, just before I tell you what this review says, you would think that before they left this review, before they even listened to the podcast, that they might have been tipped off by the fact that my bio, both in iTunes and SoundCloud and on Instagram, says clearly Christian conservative. So I don't know what they thought they were getting into listening to this podcast. I mean, there's maybe a part of them who read that and they were like, Christian and conservative, we're totally going to agree on everything. Well, I disappointed them apparently because they left me 1 star and this is what they said. This is their commentary with their review. Tearing my fingernails off sounds more interesting / fun than listening to this extremist. Ooh, now I'm an extremist apparently. If everyone actually cared about, quote, Christ approval, unquote, clearly we'd be a lot more like you. There's a reason why only a handful of Jesus freaks like yourself still exist on this earth. Therefore, all caps, no one cares about the approval from Christ, unquote. Pick different topics to talk about instead of shoving your beliefs down everyone's throat. Well, with all due respect, I would recommend you pick a different podcast to listen to because I felt like I was pretty upfront about my content, everywhere about what I talk about. So I'm sorry if this surprised you, but you don't have to listen. And to be honest, I'm pretty sure this person only listened so they could leave a bad review. I don't think they actually listened because they were interested. So with that said, I bring this up because unless this person and their opinion represents your opinion, I would just ask you to please go to iTunes right now. Pause this if you need to, or keep listening and do it at the same time. We're in America. We have iPhones. We can do the same at the same time. Please go into iTunes, leave a 5-star review, and then even better, totally write something nice. Doesn't even have to be long. Just be like, hey, I like this podcast, whatever. I don't know. Just if you don't agree with this person, do me a favor and tell iTunes that. Make sure that this is not the only voice out there or the dominating voice of 1 star and Jesus freak, 3 exclamation points. So if you hear this and you have not and you have not gone and left a review yet, now is the time. Ready, set, go. Okay, now that you've done that, thank you very much, by the way. I really appreciate it. I'll take a screenshot and share on Instagram, so feel free to check that out. Let's talk about Macy's. Now, Macy's, they came out with these portion control plates for like $9.95. Oh no, $9.50, even better of a deal. And on the plates, it said in circles labeled skinny jeans with a little circle, favorite jeans, and a bigger circle, and mom jeans, and the big one. And this obviously is supposed to be a joke. It's a humorous dieting joke, particularly aimed towards women who want to fit into their smaller jeans, especially maybe after having a baby. Well, apparently someone went to Twitter and was very offended, because if you didn't know already, everybody on Twitter is very offended about something all the time. Even harmless plates. My suggestion to this person, the same as the person who left the bad podcast review, is if you don't like the plates, don't buy the plates. And guess what? If enough people don't like the plates, they'll just eventually go away, because it's the free market. And if it's supply and demand, and if it's not in high demand, then no one will be creating it and selling it. Same for you who listen to the podcast. If you don't like my podcast, just go away. Go away. I don't need you. And quite frankly, you sound like you don't need me. So win-win. All right, now let's talk about Alyssa Milano. She is the brilliant woman behind the sex strike, which I, for some reason, don't think she went through with. Just a hunch. I have zero evidence to back that up. I just don't think she went through with the sex strike. I think she did that for publicity. Who the heck knows? Anyways, on Thursday night, the actress and abortion champion Alyssa Milano responded to the announcement that Attorney General William Barr had directed the Federal Bureau of Prisons to clear the way for the federal government to execute 5 inmates who are all convicted child murderers. She snapped at one pro-life advocate. She says here, so she snapped at the advocate. She says, "You've lost the right to pull your pro-life narrative talking bull bleep with me." And then she targeted the Trump administration's determination to reinstate the death penalty in the cases of these 5 criminals who brutally, by the way, murdered children, tweeting, "Your administration just reinstated the death penalty and scheduled 5 executions of actual people." She put actual in stars. "You've lost the right to pull your pro-life narrative talking point with me." So she had some expletives in there, but I just kind of bleeped them out. So here's the thing. First of all, she needs to open a science book or just do some basic research on Google, because human beings in the womb are actual people. They have their own DNA from conception. They can feel pain in most of the stage of the pregnancy. They have beating hearts very, very early on. And she is calling these innocent human beings, not actual people, but convicted, violent child murderers. Oh no, we should save their life. We should make it cushy. In fact, we should just, I don't know, maybe we'll just keep them in jail on the taxpayers' dime for years to come, even though they are awful human beings who have taken children's lives. No, instead, we should kill the innocent children and keep the child murderers around. Great. I mean, she really just makes about as much sense here as she did with, actually, no, she made more sense with the sex strike than she did with this, or than she does with this. This is absolutely ridiculous and disgusting that I don't understand. I just don't understand. I don't feel like she really thought that through, because anyone who thinks it through realizes that unborn beings are just as actual humans as child murderers, but they deserve to live a whole heck of a lot more than those who have murdered. Those who have murdered in cold blood, they forfeited their right to life. Unborn human beings, they haven't forfeited their right to life. They've never even been given a chance. So give them a chance. Murderers, they had their chance. All right, now let's talk about art, specifically nude art, specifically a live woman completely stripping naked in front of children and calling it art. I know, doesn't really sound like art anymore, does it? So essentially, on Vimeo, there is a video with a full interactive exhibit called, I kid you not, quote, "No butt can be used as an excuse for sexism," unquote. It's about 8.5 minutes long. I watched it, so you don't have to. It's not, I just feel like my eyes were bleeding while I was watching it, so I don't recommend you watch it. it was not art. I didn't feel inspired. When I look at good art, I'm like, wow, this is beautiful. This is amazing. This makes me feel stirred. And no, I didn't feel any of that during the supposed art. What I did feel is outrage and disgust at the fact that she was doing this in front of children, boys and girls, but there was a group of young boys that she stripped completely naked in front of, and that's considered art. On the account under Trella's name, that's the woman who did it, posted the following description for the video. Quote, during the action, no but can be used as an excuse for sexism. Artist Marie Tortella covers up paintings and drawings by well-known Etruscan male artist Marco Mattium. The paintings depict sexist imagery of women. The slogans of Torella's cover-up read, but he didn't mean it this way, cannot be used as an excuse for sexism. But he's a nice guy, cannot be used as an excuse for sexism. But he smiles always, cannot be used as an excuse for sexism. But it's his humor, cannot be used as an excuse for sexism. But he loves his wife, and so on. She gives all these canvases, she covers them up with all these sayings written on the pieces of fabric she's using to cover them up, and saying basically none of these things can be used as an excuse for sexism. So then it says here, while some defending the interaction as acceptable art, many criticize the showing as child abuse, including myself, I would point out. And also notice that the defenders of the exhibit would likely have a very different reaction if it was a man disrobing in front of young girls. And then one commenter on Vimeo wrote, she should be put in jail for undressing in front of all those kids. I agree. I definitely agree. Now, here's the thing I want to point out. I don't agree that sexism is completely gone. There is some sexism, and I think it's foolish to say that sexism is completely dead. I personally can think of a few individuals off the top of my head that I know personally that I think are kind of sexist / male chauvinistic. It doesn't mean our society as a whole is male chauvinistic and sexist. And it also doesn't mean that we need to be pushing the government towards actions or non-actions based on our feelings or personal interactions with sexism or male chauvinism. The truth is sometimes it exists, and those are just bad people or people you don't agree with and don't treat you well. You just get away from those people. But the truth is we don't have sexist laws. We don't have a sexist society in general, especially in the West. I'm not saying the whole world, I'm saying in the West and in America specifically. And I don't think that stripping completely naked is really helping your point. It's not. It's just a shock factor in child abuse to the children around you whom you completely stripped in front of. Speaking of real sexism, let me tell you about real sexism in northern India, a place where sexism is alive and well. Also, let's talk, I wasn't planning on bringing this up, but also just think of China, a place where sexism is alive and well. You want to know how? In the womb, specifically. In the womb, sexism is alive and killing many, many, many girls every year. Now, this is an article from Right to Life UK, and it says, out of 216 births across dozens of villages in northern India over the last 3 months, not one single girl was born, recent data has revealed. An investigation is currently underway as to why not a single girl was born in 132 villages across the Yukesra, I don't know how to pronounce that, district, a state in northern India over a 3-month period. India already has an imbalanced sex ratio with significantly less girls born than boys. Census data from 2011 shows that there were 914 girls to every 1,000 boys for children up to the age of 6, but in some northern states, the ratio is as low as 850, according to the United Nations Population Fund. India outlawed sex-selective abortions and prenatal sex detection in 1994, so well over 20 years ago, in order to try and prevent a further sex imbalance and associated ills with which accompany it. Sex-selective abortion and infanticide remain common practices, however, due to the cultural preference for male children. Same in China. China has a strong preference for male children over female. Dowries for girls, despite being outlawed, are often expected and expensive, and boys are expected to take the role of breadwinners for the family, in which case many families desire a son for economic reasons. Social worker Kapila Tekar said that the latest statistics for this district showed that the authorities are not doing enough. She says, quote, "No girl child was born for 3 months in these villages. It cannot be just a coincidence. This clearly indicates female feticide is taking place in the district. The government and the administration are not doing anything," unquote. In 2018, the government found that 63 million women, let that sink in, 63 million women were missing from the country's population. And this issue is explored in the documentary film, It's a Girl. Highly recommend that documentary. I actually watched a few years back, It's a Girl. I don't remember where I watched it. It could have been Netflix, but it's been a while since I watched it. Really, really interesting. So Alyssa Milano, if you want to complain about babies and human rights and yada yada, and then if this chick prancing around naked to fight sexism wants to fight their fight, I would suggest that there are much better ways to do that. And not only there are much better ways to do that, but there are much bigger issues to tackle. Yes, while male chauvinism and sexism is a minor problem in some places and with some people, it is not to the point where we are outright killing millions of little girls because of sexism, because we prefer boys. I'm sorry, go fight that issue. If you care about, human rights, Alyssa Milano, if you care about sexism, random lady whose name I can't remember, prancing around naked for your art, may I suggest you're doing it in the wrong way and for the wrong reasons. Go fight a battle that's actually worth fighting. That's all I have to say for you. Now, before I continue on, please take a minute to subscribe on YouTube, subscribe on iTunes. Like I said, please go leave a review. It really helps in the rankings. And especially if you didn't agree with the previously read podcast review, go ahead and leave your own. Thank you. Now, this week's book is, I finally got around to reading The Right Side of History by Ben Shapiro. I did want to read it earlier, but the truth is I have a list about 1,10,000 inches long that I need to read, and this one kind of just had to fall further down the list. So I finally got around to reading it. I really recommend it, especially if you haven't been introduced to many of the topics he talks about. It's a really good place to start, and from there you can really delve into the areas that really piqued your interest. So now, movie/TV show/music. You know me, I try and pick only one of them, because if I picked all three, then, we'd be here for a week. So let's go ahead and do a song today. The song is Truth Hurts by Lizzo. Now, warning, what she has to say specifically about men, it's not actually the truth. So while it's her idea, what she thinks the truth is, it's not the truth at all, and it's really negative. So let's go ahead and talk about some of these lyrics. I would play you some of it, but the truth is, it is so fraught with expletives, I don't think you'd really enjoy it. And it's not really great music anyway, so let's spare your ears. You don't want to, come away with bleeding ears. I'll just read you the lyrics. That'll be bad enough, I promise. All right, she starts out, "Why men great till they gotta be great?" I don't know, Lizzo, you tell me. Woo. "I just took a DNA test. Turns out I'm 100% that beep, B word, even when I'm crying crazy." Okay, so she's, calling herself a crazy B word. You know what? I'm going to take your word for it. You sound like a crazy B word if you're accepting that. So let's keep going. "Yeah, I got boy problems. That's the human in me. Bling bling, and then I saw them. That's the goddess in me." Okay, so like every other human being out there, you have boy problems. Congratulations. And you sound like you, in your opinion, can solve them. Good for you too. I wouldn't want you to not solve them. Continuing. "You could have had," oh, you know what? Before I continue on, I wouldn't recommend watching the YouTube video. The entire YouTube video is her looking like a bride who was ditched from the altar, but she's wearing really skimpy looking white lingerie. So it was almost like she's a disgruntled left at the altar bride. And that's what this whole song is her complaining about. So That's the background on this. So what she says next in here is, you could have had a bad bleep, B word, non-committal, help you with your career just a little. So what she's saying is, you could have had a bad girl. I could have been super non-committal for you and help you with your career just a little. So what you're saying is, in marriage, you value being a bad person, being a B-word person or female, non-committal, which seems ironic because you're talking about being non-committal and you're complaining about him being non-committal as in not showing up to your wedding. So I'm a little confused about if non-committal is good or bad, because you're making it sound good, but then you're complaining about it at the same time. And then you're valuing helping you with your career. Well, let me give you a little hint. In a healthy relationship, the relationship and the health of it is actually more important than a career. Hopefully that helps you just a little. I don't think your reasons behind marriage are really rock solid right here. You pose to hold me down, but you're holding me back. Okay, so if he's holding you back, maybe you should be marrying him or with him at all. And that's the sound of me not calling you back. Okay, great. Don't call him back if he's not good for you. Don't text me, tell it straight to my face. I do agree that we are a texting culture, that we should have more of these phone calls in person or, face to face. Best friend sat me down in the salon chair, shampooed, pressed, got you out of my hair. Okay, so you're going to your girlfriend's to get over this guy. Great, whatever. Fresh photos with the bomb lighting, new man on the Minnesota Vikings. Okay, this sounds a little bit more like you're not over him, because if you care more about getting your hair shampooed and then great pictures with bomb lighting, as you say, and then your new man who you're rubbing his status of being on the Minnesota Vikings in his face, it doesn't really sound like you're in a healthy spot. Maybe you shouldn't be dating this guy from the Minnesota Vikings, because it sounds like you're in this relationship with this new one for unhealthy reasons. I don't recommend that you or this Minnesota Vikings dude continue. Just saying, maybe sort out your problems first. Truth hurts, needs something more exciting. Okay, wow. Let's stop there right there. She is now saying she's leaving you because she needs something more exciting? Oh, honey. Okay, you need some help. Maybe some therapy. Hey, I'm glad you're back with your B-word. I mean, who would wanna hide this? Okay, yeah, you got issues. I will never, ever be your side chick. I put the sing in single. So 1 second, you're with the Minnesota Viking dude and rubbing that in his face. And then the second after that, you're talking about how great it is because you put the sing in single and you're singing about being single. I do just want to talk about this, and there's a whole nother topic, but while being single when you're waiting for the right person isn't bad, I don't think glorifying it this way is quite the good message for I don't know. You know what? She's a mess. I'm going to leave it there. Ain't worried about a ring on her finger. Apparently not, because she puts the sing in single, and she's with the Minnesota Vikings dude. So you can tell your friend, shoot your shot when you see him. It's okay. He's already in my DMs. So I know this is hard to understand because she's speaking in such poor grammar and words. Yeah, it's basically like Donald Trump's line, I use words good. That's her right now. So what she's saying is, you can tell your friend that I'm available. This is my translation. You can tell your friend that I'm available. Oh, never mind. We're already talking. Which implies what? You were talking during your relationship with him or right after? Either way, you're fraternizing with his friend right away. Sounds like this is all revenge. Continuing and ending with, I'm going to hit you back in a minute. I don't play tag. Beep. I've been it. We don't bleep with lies. We don't do goodbyes. We just keep pushing it like, yeah. I don't recommend this song if you're searching for a healthy relationship with men, because it sounds like she's poisoned and bitter against men. And that's where I'm going to leave that. All right, now let's take one question real quick, because I keep saying that I will, and I need to stop putting it off. All right, Fire Lord says, I agree that abortion is inherently evil. However, I still have questions since we are about making abortion unthinkable or illegal, depending on what politicians decide, are you also in favor of increased taxpayer funding to maternal care, schools, and childcare? If so, by how much? How exactly should the existing money and hypothetical new funds be spent? Great question, Fire Lord. Let me tell you my answer. First of all, I'm going to address your last question. Is you said, how exactly should the existing money be spent? The existing money should go back to the taxpayers who paid it in. That's pretty easy. The existing money should stay in the pockets of those who worked hard for that money. And then answering your first question, which ties into the second question, I don't believe that the government should be in the business at all in increased maternal care, schools, or childcare. That is not the proper role of government. It's not the government's place to take my hard-earned money and give it to those who need help with childcare, or who need help with schools, or who need help with maternal care. Those were not my actions. They are not my responsibility. They were your actions. They are your responsibility. The proper role of government is only to take money that goes to the general welfare of everyone, meaning my money should go for my needs, meaning better roads, firefighters, policemen, military. That's about it, and a few other things, but you get the general picture. It's not taking my money at force, at gunpoint, because that's essentially what government is power and gunpoint. It is not the government's responsibility to steal money from me and then from there decide where my money goes to other people individually. That's the case. And the truth is yes, I do agree that we should make abortion unthinkable, but that's through education and helping women to understand the scientific facts that a life starts at conception, because so many women just don't know that. And then protecting the value, or protecting that human life like we would any other human life, any innocent human life, to be specific, because your rights end where your body ends, and we have to protect the human beings, the unborn human beings that are vulnerable. So no, I don't think that we should increase or use taxpayer funding for maternal care, schools, or childcare, because if they're not my children, that is not my responsibility. Now, are there people who are in need and do need help with that? Absolutely. And that is where churches come in. That is where individuals who have big hearts come in. I personally, as a Christian, believe in giving a portion of your income to those who need. That's just my belief. And I don't have the government telling me this is how much money we're going to take away from you to give to people who need. It comes from me. And I give to people who are in need, and organizations I support who help people who are in need. That is where individuals and communities come in to take care of those who are needed. And I don't say this from a harsh perspective. If you've read my Instagram or listened to my podcast, I've told you my own mother was an abused woman coming from a polygamous relationship where she was the fifth wife to a man who's deeply alcoholic and physically abusive and emotionally abusive to her in Mexico, had to run away with her two children, was completely destitute, had no job, no education past high school, no car. She had nothing. And you know what? The church helped her. They paid her rent. Individuals gave her canned food. They supported her, because that's what community is for. But that is not where government comes from. Now, ending with good in the world, and it actually ties directly into this, and so that's why I chose this particular story, and I love it, is Jenna. She's a graduate student from the University of Iowa, was trying to finish college while also raising her daughter, single mom. That's when, through research, she applied to a scholarship dedicated to Dale Scrooger. The student with a toddler was about to receive the biggest surprise of her life. She applied for a scholarship, and then this is what happened. Well, Dale passed away in 2005. His lawyer friend, Stephen Nelson, helped Dale set up a trust for college students in Iowa. Dale has amassed a net worth of over $3 million as a carpenter. Dale, the man who is deceased, he didn't have money or an opportunity to go to college when he was young, and he didn't want that to be the case for others. He had a big heart. He wanted to help others. So when he died, everyone who received a scholarship from this man got their entire tuition paid for a 4-year college education. Jenner, the woman with the toddler, was one of the 33 people selected. Carla Peterson, also putting herself through grad school, another student studying occupational therapy, was a lucky applicant. She says, quote, Dale was a person who didn't know I existed, but he wanted to relieve my financial burden so that I could pay it forward. This is something I could never do. I could have never attended school, Peterson said, but because I was given the great gift and great opportunity, I was able to learn so much during my undergraduate program and can just continue those skills that I built and just continue to help people through my life as well. So it sounds like through this spirit of generosity, this man has inspired, helping these 33 students. He's inspiring these students to pay it forward and do what they can to be generous. So that answers that question. That is the good in the world, is generous people do exist. And you know what? I know I'm not always as generous in my heart. I don't have always a generous spirit like I want to, but I try every day, because that is what community is for, is generosity and a helping hand. But that's not the proper role of government. That is not government's responsibility. And let's get real, the government's awful. Like, some organizations have a little bit of corruption or waste, but the government is awful at fraud and waste and corruption. Why would we trust them to take money and give it to needy people? So much of that just goes to the bureaucracy. Like, I think I'd have to look up these numbers, but I believe the numbers I was looking at a few months back were like 75 cents of every dollar goes to the process, and only 25 cents goes to the people who are in need. Don't quote me on that. I need to double check that, because I wasn't thinking about using those figures in this podcast. But seriously, the end of the story is government is full of fraud and corruption, and it is up to generous individuals, like hopefully yourself, that help those who are in need. That is the correct place to find help. There you go. And then last but not least, I want to give a shout out to Fight the New Drug. This is not paid or sponsored. It's a shirt I'm wearing today. This shirt says "Love Takes Two," and it has like a fingerprint on it. And I talk all about the effect of pornography. This is what the shirt is fighting against, is pornography, because pornography cannot love you back. Pornography is a screen, and it is very, very, very harmful. If you want to hear more about the subject, go check out my podcast a few months ago, called Pornography Kills Love. I talk about this subject in detail. With that, have a wonderful week. God bless you, and God bless America.